Romantic comedies have a way of sweeping us into their perfectly packaged worlds, ones where love is just around the corner, everyone has impossibly great hair, and somehow the rent is always paid on time. If you've ever noticed a pattern in these films, you're not alone. The main character is almost always a single young woman navigating the ups and downs of life in a bustling metropolis. By day, she's devoted to her job, even if it doesn't seem to pay much. And by night, she's at a bar with her best friends, who despite being fully grown adults, appear to have no personal lives of their own and dedicate every conversation to her romantic dilemmas. While these women are often portrayed as struggling underdogs, maybe they're unlucky in love or their career isn't taking off, there's one area where they never seem to struggle: their living situation. Whether it's a stunning loft with skyline views, a cozy apartment in the heart of the city, or even an entire countryside cottage, their homes always look straight out of an interior design magazine. They wear designer outfits, hop on spontaneous trips abroad, and somehow money is never an issue. Today, we're diving into one of the most enduring rom-com cliches. Where exactly do these characters live, and just how realistic is it that they could afford it? Let's take a closer look at the dreamy and sometimes hilariously unrealistic homes and apartments of our favorite rom-com characters. Our deep dive into rom-com real estate begins with one of the most iconic characters of the genre, Bridget Jones. A self-deprecating, diary-writing Londoner, Bridget lives in a charming yet slightly chaotic flat that perfectly mirrors her personality. Her home is located in Southwark, near Borough Market, an area that was already becoming trendy in the early 2000s. As a junior publishing editor, Bridget is hardly rolling in money. Her salary at the time would have been around £18,000 to £22,000 per year. Meanwhile, the average rent for a one-bedroom flat in London in 2001 was approximately £660 per month. But Borough Market's rising popularity likely pushed prices closer to £1,200 to £1,500 per month. Realistically, Bridget's flat would have taken up the majority of her income, making it highly unlikely that she could afford it alone, at least not without serious financial acrobatics. Bridget's flat is as lived in as it is lovable. With one bedroom, a living room, a spacious kitchen, a hallway and a bathroom, it's estimated to be around 55 to 65 square meters, 590 to 700 square feet. But what truly makes her home memorable is its distinctly unpolished charm. From the very first scene, the flat is a visual representation of Bridget's life, messy, unpredictable, but ultimately endearing. And despite the apparent chaos, Bridget never struggles to find anything she needs. The disarray isn't just a character quirk, it's an extension of who she is, imperfect, relatable, and effortlessly charming. While the apartment may not make sense financially, it makes perfect sense narratively. This is a rom-com after all, and Bridget's home, like her character, isn't about realism. It's about feeling, personality, and a world where even a junior editor can afford a flat in central London without worrying too much about rent. Our next stop is the quintessential New York rom-com apartment belonging to Jane Nichols, the ever-devoted bridesmaid with a closet full of dresses but no wedding of her own. Yet. Jane, an executive assistant in her early 30s, lives in what appears to be a mid-sized Manhattan rental, most likely located in the East Village or Lower Manhattan.
Ah, this is so tiny and cute. I love it.
Given the film's aesthetic choices and the typical apartment sizes in those areas, Jane's home is estimated to be around 55 to 65 square meters, 590 to 700 square feet. Comparable in size to Bridget Jones's London flat, it consists of a separate bedroom, a cozy living room, and a small but functional kitchen, embodying the dream of a charming yet modest single woman in the city lifestyle. Jane's apartment is everything you'd expect from a romanticized New York rental, an old building with high ceilings, vintage touches, and classic architectural details. From the moment you step inside, you're greeted by vintage octagonal tiles and elegant columns, adding a touch of old-school charm. The open layout is a staple of American rom-coms, designed to make the space feel more expansive and inviting. But then we come to an odd design choice: the TV placement. Tucked away behind the sofa in the passageway, it's clear that Jane isn't the type to unwind in front of the screen. This subtle detail reinforces her character. She's always on the go, too busy organizing weddings and helping others to indulge in much-needed downtime. What truly sets Jane's apartment apart are the windows and bedroom design. The tall windows flood the space with natural light, made even cozier by built-in window seats, perfect for a quiet moment with a cup of coffee and a bridal magazine. But the real cinematic masterpiece? The bedroom entrance. The folding multi-leaf doors dramatically reveal the perfectly symmetrical view of Jane's double bed, a visual that's as aesthetically pleasing as it is intentional. And of course, it makes for the perfect scene-stealing moment when Jane dramatically steps out in her collection of over-the-top bridesmaid dresses. It's a home that feels aspirational yet lived in, a rom-com dream apartment that, much like Jane herself, is full of warmth, personality, and just the right touch of whimsical romance. Few romantic comedies capture the magic of New York City quite like When Harry Met Sally. The film turns Manhattan into a warm, inviting place where love blossoms over casual conversations and chance encounters. And while the story is about relationships, the apartments in this film play an essential role in shaping the characters and their journeys. Let's start with Harry's apartment, a stunning Upper West Side loft that feels more like a penthouse than a typical bachelor pad. Harry, a political consultant, enjoys a massive open-concept space featuring high ceilings, 3 grand arched windows, and even a skylight, a rare luxury in Manhattan real estate. This is not the dark, cramped apartment of a struggling single man. This is prime New York real estate, likely around 75 to 90 square meters, 800 to 970 square feet. The filmmakers want us to see Harry as someone who's alone, dealing with the emotional weight of his divorce. His apartment is meant to feel cold, empty, and impersonal, a visual reflection of his inner loneliness. But let's be real, it's hard to feel sorry for a guy in his early 30s who has a high-paying job and a luxury apartment with skyline views. If anything, his space looks like a dream for any young professional in New York, both in the 1980s and today. Unlike Harry's penthouse, Sally's apartment is smaller and more traditional, but it's still beautifully designed and spacious by New York standards. It has a warm, inviting atmosphere, reflecting her personality, organized, cheerful, and somewhat idealistic. The decor, much like Sally herself, is charming yet practical, with soft, neutral tones and a lived-in coziness. While her job as a journalist might not make her wealthy, it's clear that she's doing well enough to afford a comfortable space in a prime Manhattan location. One of the most fascinating apartments in the film belongs to Marie and Jess, Harry and Sally's best friends. Their home is a classic New York brownstone, a dream property for anyone who's ever fantasized about living in the city. This apartment has everything: high ceilings, massive windows, a fireplace, and direct access to a private garden. The spacious and bright living room is filled with slightly mismatched, borderline tasteless furniture, but somehow it all comes together in an effortlessly cool way. It feels lived in, warm, and filled with personality, the perfect contrast to Harry's more sterile apartment. Was this level of housing realistic for the time? Perhaps. New York in the late 1970s and early 1980s was still full of affordable housing opportunities, and real estate hadn't yet hit its current sky-high prices. However, looking back, it's clear that the film idealizes New York living, making it feel more accessible than it actually was. That said, When Harry Met Sally doesn't just give us beautiful apartments, it uses them to enhance the storytelling. Harry's cold loft, Sally's cozy home, and Marie and Jess's perfect brownstone all serve as subtle reflections of their owners, adding depth to the film's already brilliant character development. Few romantic comedies make us want to pack our bags and move to a new home quite like The Holiday. This film is a love letter to two completely different yet equally dreamy lifestyles, the ultra-modern luxury of Los Angeles and the quaint charm of the English countryside. And in a way, the houses in this film are as much characters as the people living in them. Amanda, a high-powered film trailer producer, lives in a sprawling Tuscan-style villa in Los Angeles, a home that perfectly reflects her success, wealth, and high-maintenance lifestyle. The house is a real architectural showpiece, boasting 9 bedrooms and 5 bathrooms, over 10,324 square feet, nearly 1,000 square meters, a massive home theater, and a luxurious swimming pool. The set designers did an incredible job of making Amanda's house feel both opulent and slightly impersonal, the perfect representation of a woman who has everything but still feels something is missing. Despite its grandeur, the house lacks warmth and coziness, mirroring Amanda's struggle to open up emotionally. Now let's talk about Iris's cottage, which might just be one of the most beloved movie homes of all time. Nestled in the English countryside, this picture-perfect cottage has everything you'd expect from a storybook English home: exposed wooden beams, a cozy open fireplace, a charmingly rustic kitchen, and a tiny yet incredibly inviting bathtub. The interiors are warm, slightly worn in, and undeniably charming, striking the perfect balance between traditional country aesthetics and timeless comfort. It's the kind of home where you can imagine curling up with a book on a rainy afternoon. However, there's one heartbreaking fact. Iris's cottage doesn't actually exist. The filmmakers created it as a set, carefully designing every element to look like an authentic, lived-in English home. The holiday uses its two homes to emphasize the contrast between Amanda and Iris. One is a vast, modern mansion that represents success but emotional emptiness. The other is a small, cozy cottage that symbolizes warmth, nostalgia, and quiet contentment. The house swap forces both women out of their comfort zones, setting the stage for their personal transformations. Back in New York City, we find another quintessentially cozy romantic comedy, You've Got Mail, starring Meg Ryan and Tom Hanks. And just like in When Harry Met Sally, Manhattan is once again presented as the most charming and livable place on earth. Kathleen Kelly's home is the ultimate reflection of her personality, a warm, inviting, and slightly whimsical space that perfectly suits an independent bookstore owner. While the film doesn't explicitly state whether she owns or rents the place. One thing is clear, in real-life 1998 New York, an Upper West Side brownstone like this would have been prohibitively expensive for a small business owner. But that's part of the film's charm. It presents an idealized version of life in New York, where running a cozy bookshop in the city is still a viable dream. So what makes Kathleen's home so special? Tall, overflowing bookshelves that make the space feel personal and lived in. The decor is not overly polished, but instead feels effortlessly warm and homey. Nothing feels staged or overly designed, as if everything has been collected over time. Beautiful sliding doors with glazing bars in the kitchen, a subtle but stylish touch that adds character to the space. A cozy bay window with massive windows, perfect for reading on a rainy day with a cup of tea. Even though the space isn't luxurious or grand, it has a timeless, romantic quality that makes it one of the most memorable movie homes in romantic comedy history. In reality, an apartment like Kathleen's would be out of reach for most small business owners, even in the late 90s. But You've Got Mail isn't trying to reflect the financial realities of New York City. Instead, it creates a world where independent bookstores still thrive, where neighborhoods feel like small towns, and where life moves at a cozy, bookshop-paced rhythm. Among the many storylines in Love Actually, one of the most bittersweet belongs to Sarah, played by Laura Linney. Unlike the other characters who find love, Sarah's story is left open-ended and unresolved. Sarah is a dedicated graphic designer living alone in London, and her home perfectly embodies early 2000s rom-com aesthetics. Though she doesn't get much screen time, what we do see of her apartment is enough to appreciate its intimate, stylish charm. A soft, feminine aesthetic, a contrast to the corporate office space where she spends most of her time, and a mezzanine bedroom, one of the cutest architectural details, adding a sense of coziness and separation despite the compact size of the apartment. Unlike the grand homes of some other Love Actually characters, Sarah's apartment feels realistic, lived in, and attainable, making her one of the most relatable characters in the film. It's almost ironic that one of the most classically romantic-looking apartments in the film belongs to the character who doesn't get a romantic ending. While the cozy, dreamy aesthetic of Sarah's home fits the typical rom-com character, her storyline is far more grounded in reality. And though her story may not have a traditional happy ending, her home is a perfect reflection of who she is. creative, warm, and quietly hopeful. Kate's apartment in No Reservations is another example of the dreamy, romanticized New York living spaces often seen in films. As a talented chef in a small but highly regarded Manhattan restaurant, her home reflects both her success and her meticulous personality. The apartment is located in Brooklyn Heights, a charming and upscale neighborhood known for its beautiful historic buildings and breathtaking views of Manhattan. Unlike many rom-com apartments that feel entirely out of reach, Kate's home is at least somewhat plausible, though still on the luxurious side for a single professional. The apartment is spacious, with a large hallway leading to multiple rooms, including a well-equipped kitchen, a dining area, a cozy living room with a grand fireplace, and several bedrooms. The interiors are stylish yet understated, reflecting Kate's disciplined and structured lifestyle. Her home feels elegant but not overly decorated. There's a sense of order and functionality, much like the way she runs her kitchen. The muted color palette and refined furnishings contribute to the sophisticated atmosphere, making it clear that this is the home of someone who takes both her career and her personal space seriously. The estimated size of the apartment, between 80 and 95 square meters, makes it significantly larger than the typical New York studio or one-bedroom rental. While it might be more affordable in Brooklyn than in Manhattan, it still suggests that Kate's career has given her financial stability and the ability to live comfortably. Though her job is demanding and her personal life is often put on hold, her home remains a reflection of the success she has worked so hard to achieve. When talking about rom-coms, it would be impossible not to mention one of the most famous and iconic TV shows about the glamorous life in Manhattan, Sex and the City. Carrie Bradshaw's apartment is one of the most recognizable fictional apartments in television history. Supposedly located on the Upper East Side, her rent-stabilized studio offers an enviable amount of space for a freelance writer in Manhattan. With a separate kitchen, a spacious living area, a bedroom, and the iconic walk-in closet, Carrie's home is a dream for many. Despite its unrealistic affordability, the apartment is estimated to be around 65 to 75 square meters, making it significantly larger than the typical New York studio. While the real-life filming location at 66 Perry Street in the West Village is a townhouse, the set designers created an interior that feels distinctly like a classic pre-war Upper East Side rental, with high ceilings, large windows, and a layout that feels both cozy and surprisingly open. What makes Carrie's apartment particularly interesting is how it reflects her personality and lifestyle. The space is filled with eclectic furniture, mismatched pieces, and a constant sense of creative chaos. Unlike the meticulously designed interiors of other rom-com homes, Carrie's apartment feels lived in, overflowing with books, fashion magazines, and an ever-growing collection of designer shoes. The focal point of the apartment is, of course, her walk-in closet, which is nearly as famous as Carrie herself. Filled with high-end fashion, it symbolizes her passion for style and her slightly impractical approach to finances. Meanwhile, her barely used kitchen, where sweaters are stored in the oven, serves as a humorous nod to her lack of domesticity. Although it's hard to believe that a columnist could afford such a desirable apartment, the show cleverly explains this away through the concept of rent control, a narrative trick that allows for the fantasy element so common in romantic comedies. Ultimately, Carrie's apartment isn't just a place where she lives. It's an extension of her character, capturing both the glamour and the messiness of her life in New York City. Elizabeth Masterson's apartment in Just Like Heaven is a dreamlike Victorian home set in San Francisco's Russian Hill neighborhood. With its high ceilings, large windows, and an open, airy layout, the apartment embodies the city's signature charm while also serving as an extension of Elizabeth's character. Despite having such a beautiful home, she spends almost no time there, consumed by her demanding job as a doctor. This is a recurring theme in the film. Her home is a perfect sanctuary, yet it remains largely uninhabited, reinforcing the idea that she has sacrificed her personal life for her career. The apartment itself is estimated to be around 90 to 110 square meters, a size that far exceeds the typical one-bedroom apartment in San Francisco. With a spacious living room, a large kitchen, a separate bedroom, and access to a stunning rooftop with panoramic views, the home is an aspirational setting for any rom-com. the film subtly suggests that her successful medical career allows her to afford such a coveted space, placing her in one of the city's more historic and upscale neighborhoods, such as Pacific Heights or Nob Hill. What makes Elizabeth's apartment particularly memorable is its warm and inviting design. The soft lighting, tasteful furnishings, and carefully curated decor create a space that feels both sophisticated and effortlessly cozy. It's the kind of place that instantly feels like home, even to David, the new tenant who unknowingly moves in after Elizabeth's accident. His journey from seeing the apartment as a mere rental to forming an emotional connection with it mirrors his evolving bond with Elizabeth. This transformation adds to the romantic, almost ethereal quality of the film, making the apartment not just a setting, but an integral part of the love story. Romantic comedies often transport us to magical worlds where love conquers all and living spaces are nothing short of spectacular. These beautifully curated settings play a crucial role in shaping the charm of the genre, offering an idealized version of reality where characters reside in homes that in truth might be far beyond their means. This deliberate cinematic choice enhances the escapism that rom-coms provide, allowing viewers to lose themselves in a world where romance and real estate know no bounds. Yet, beyond the fantasy, these films have also painted a picture of what a single woman's life can be: independent, fulfilling, and undeniably stylish. Whether it's a cozy brownstone in New York, a dreamy English cottage, or a sleek city loft, these homes have served as an aspirational backdrop for stories of love, ambition, and self-discovery. For many, rom-coms have become a reference point for the kind of life they dream of, one that balances a successful career, a beautiful home, and the possibility of a fairy tale romance. But even without the love story, the picture remains enticing, a life that is vibrant, full, and worth celebrating. Thanks for joining us on this journey through the fabulous homes of romantic comedies. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share your thoughts. If you could live in any rom-com home, which one would it be?